Hey everybody, today we are going to talk about how do we stop our financial reactivity. Whew, that's going to be a big one because we got lots in the world to be financially reactive about. But before we do so, be sure to hit that subscribe, like, and notification bell. Why? Because we're going to get you delight to you that you absolutely love. And we're sitting in third dimension world. So money is a part of that, and money makes the world go round, as some would say. You know, I've spent the last 25 plus years being a financial planner, and I have come to learn that our brains are not the only thing that need to go with us when it comes to our financial management. This big old beautiful heart that you have has got to go along for the ride. Why? Because I was proofing my new book that's coming out, and I'm super excited about it. And it'll be out in the next few weeks. And I was proofing it, and I was reading about how we really do not create enough space for ourselves financially. And that keeps us in the rat race. No matter what country you live in, no matter what city you live in, no matter what race you're in, what culture, what economic standpoint, none of us, very few of us, I should say, have the space emotionally as well as financially to pivot when our heart tells us we got to go in another direction. What do? We push it aside. We push it aside. We take that beautiful heart of ours and we push it to the side. Hence the reactivity. So I'm going to give you a few tools today that you can start to think about how you can mitigate some of this financial reactivity that you got going on. So you've probably seen other videos that I've talked about. And if you haven't, take a look because I'll actually put the links below on how to create financial space. And there's also videos about our body intelligence and how our bodies are way smarter than our minds. And that when we align our purpose with our paycheck, boy, oh boy, all kinds of quantum leaps happen. And all these things, if we start to create space, align our purpose with our paycheck, which is taking our heart along for the ride, that decreases our reactivity. There is absolutely no way to manifest the world that you want if your physical body is contracted. And that's contracted when you're in reactivity. So it's incredibly important to start to have a toolbox of when you're in your reactivity, because it's not a matter if, it's when, because every human being has emotion. So at some juncture, something might tip you over the edge. And even myself, after doing this 25 plus years, there are days, there are still things that I'm going, seriously? Are we here again? Who's with me? Right? We've all had those moments in our lives. So our bodies are smarter than our minds, and we need to create some more space. So some of those tools in your toolbox could be go for a walk in nature. I talk about this in my 21-day challenges that I do with people. That it's amazing on how when you align with nature, when you align with your heart and soul, it calms the nervous system down, which is the opposite effect that most of us do. We drink alcohol, we eat fried foods, we drink caffeine and coffee and these things that rev us up. And we need to pull the reactivity down. We don't exercise enough to move the energy when we do have anxiety. We don't do the self-love and self-care because we're taking care of everybody else. And trust me, I have over 10 employees I have 4 children. I'm divorced. I have 11 brothers and sisters. I have 38 nieces and nephews. There's a lot that I can do out in the world. And I'm sure each of you are there too. But if we don't create the space for ourselves and allow ourselves to calm that nervous system, you will never stop your financial reactivity. And this is why things really bother you, like when in the risks of inflation that's going on right now, or the opportunity to have this unbelievable contraction that may or may not come in the form of a recession, right? Which we experienced in 08 and 09. We experienced one in 2020. And the question is will we have one in 2022 or not, right? Nobody has an hourglass. Nobody exactly knows. But I can tell you this, all of these financial things outside of yourself would not bother you as much if you've created some financial insulation. And we have to get your financial reactivity in check. So make sure you're physiologically doing the things that actually help, because we have to address with your financial reactivity, we've got to address the 4 parts of your self in moderating that reactivity. And one of them is the physical self. So be sure you're doing those things to moderate your nervous system. The second is your emotional self. So there's the physical and then there's the emotional. So the emotional part is maybe you don't have conversations with the people who are going to amplify that fear or anxiety. Too often, we start talking about what's bothering us, and then it's like misery loves company, and it all keeps. So start to observe and start to look at how do you start to shift having the conversations with people, even if it's somebody you've had conversations in a certain direction, and you really need to shift it because you can't go down the pile of poop conversation anymore, because enough of the negativity, enough of what's wrong with the world, enough of the stress, enough of talking about how much it costs for you to go fill up your gas tank. All those things are absolutely true, but they do not create emotional space to reduce your financial reactivity if you're talking about them all the time. If you're feeling the feelings of fear about what's going to happen, maybe how's it going to affect my job? Am I going to get the pay raise that I want to have? Blah, blah, blah. Do you see how it's all connected? I want us to start to realize, so it's our physical self, our emotional self, and then there's our mental. Like, what are the thoughts that you're thinking? What are you choosing to think? Because that is what you are creating. Do you hear that? What you are speaking and what you are thinking is what you are creating. We live in a holographic universe, which just means whatever's going on the inside, you're drawing to you. So if you'd like to create more anxiety and more financial stress and more financial reactivity, then keep talking about the things that stress you out so much about the financials. Instead of talking about the things that, you know what, I'm not really sure how that's all going to turn out. I see it. It's there. That's how you can observe it. And then go, but this is what I want to create in my life. I have lots of examples of that in my world where I could point to the things that are not going to get me along my path, but it's where do I put my energy? We have to understand that our thoughts and our words and our feelings are the energy that create our reality. So we start to observe and become mindful of that. That can reduce your financial reactivity. So observing it is one thing. It's also about the fact that I need you to create some space. Maybe it's space from people. Maybe it's space in your cash flows. Take a look. I always tell people, I just gave the assignment to my group coaching class, in which I start one up every quarter. So go to juliemurphy.com, get on my email list. When my next group coaching comes out, I'm doing it in groups of people so that I can help more people at one time. I want you to create some space once a quarter and say, do I really want these things going out anymore? Or would I prefer something else? I just had a conversation with somebody today and I said, you know what? If you keep saving, half of each of your bonuses, you're retiring at 60 versus 65. How do you feel about that? Well, If you're just spend, and you're in financial reactivity all the time, how can you even think that that's a possibility? But anything's a possibility. It has to start with the first step in the process that I always walk people through, and that's picturing the reality that you want to create. Because first you have to have the picture before we can line everything else up behind it. And you can't do any of that if you're in reactive mode. So remember, do what it is that you can to observe and be in. What do you got to do physically, mentally, emotionally, even spiritually? Sometimes it's about the meditation is talking to God in the universe, and prayer is talking and meditation is listening. So sometimes you need to create the space in your spiritual realm. However you choose to define that, each one of us will do that differently. And then observe. After the observing, I need you to then look at where can you create space at? Where can you create space in your cash outflows? And when you create that space, where do you intentionally want that to flow to create even more space? So if you reduced your expenses by $50 a month because you decided to change your cable bill, create some space by having that $50 a month go into some kind of savings account that is your padding. So if the shit hits the fan, you can replace your own paycheck and you don't have to worry about an employer or government or someone else have control over your life and your happiness, because you are in control of your life and your happiness. You just have to decide that you're in control and then start taking the steps to fund it to be in control. And I don't care how many zeros you have. I've watched people with high quality of life at $40,000 a year, and I've seen people at terrible quality of life with $1 million a year in income. It's not about the number of zeros. It's about the choices that you make along the way and how you choose to create that space in your life, mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. And be able to be in a place where your body is so much more intelligent than your mind, and you can observe it and see it. But we can't do it if we're constantly in reactivity. And then choose your pivot point. That's the third point that I wanted to make today, is that then pivot. So you can observe it, create the space, pivot. Take that pivot. You can go boop, boop. You just have to decide it, right? Boop, boop. And it can be that fun. I know I'm a little noisemaker, but I know you can do this. I know you can get to a place that you absolutely love. You just got to decide to do it. And then once you choose to and you commit, take those action steps and pivot. Thanks, everybody. And again, don't forget to hit that subscribe, like, and notification bell, because I'm going to help you get to a life that you absolutely love. And we will see you soon, and have a great week.